Rob Mitchell didn't set out to become a whistleblower. He was a property assessor, a numbers man, a public servant tasked with the unglamorous but essential work of determining what Rutherford County's land and buildings were worth. But in the spring of 2024, a routine administrative review led him somewhere he hadn't expected, to a decades-old secret hiding in plain sight. The Tennessee Association of Assessing Officers had been collecting public money for years. Counties paid membership dues. The state comptroller's office funneled dollars its way. The University of Tennessee's County Technical Assistance Service contributed tens of thousands annually. In total, the organization was pulling in well over $100,000 in public funds each year. It trained assessors, published guidance, shaped policy, and no one, apparently, had thought to ask whether it was legally permitted to do any of it. Mitchell asked. What he found stopped him cold. The TNAAO had been administratively dissolved in 1983. For more than 4 decades, an organization that did not legally exist had been operating as though it did, collecting public money and wielding quiet but real influence over Tennessee's property tax policies. Mitchell requested financial records. He requested documentation of the organization's legal standing. He got nothing. By the summer of 2024, the silence itself had become its own kind of answer. What Mitchell had stumbled into was not merely a paperwork irregularity. The TNAAO's executive director wore 2 hats, one as the head of the organization and another as a county lobbyist with long-standing ties to the halls of state power. That lobbyist had cultivated a close working relationship with the Rutherford County mayor, dating back to the mayor's years in the Tennessee General Assembly, when political friendships were forged in the easy currency of shared causes and state house corridors. The arrangement Mitchell was uncovering had the architecture of a closed loop. Public money flowed from the comptroller's office in the University of Tennessee to the TNAAO. The TNAAO paid its executive director. That director, in his capacity as a lobbyist, worked to influence the very assessment and tax policies that state agencies oversaw. The people funding the loop were, in a meaningful sense, also subject to the loop's output. It was elegant, if you didn't look too closely. Mitchell was looking very closely. In December 2024, he formalized his findings into a dossier and submitted it to the state comptroller's office, copying the governor and the attorney general. He had documented Rutherford County's $33,800 in dues paid to a dissolved entity, the comptroller's own contributions of roughly $24,000, and CTAS's annual outlay of approximately $75,000. He asked for a refund. He asked for answers. He asked publicly why no one had noticed this before. The response came quickly, though not in the form he had hoped. Within weeks of his submission, the Division of Property Assessments issued a non-compliance report against Mitchell's office. The timing, Mitchell noted pointedly in subsequent public statements, was difficult to explain as coincidence. The county mayor's office began publicly criticizing the assessor. Colleagues who had once been cordial grew distant. The message delivered through official channels and informal pressure alike was not subtle. This was not a fight Mitchell was expected to win. He pressed on anyway. Mitchell took his case to the public, laying out the closed funding loop in plain language and walking Rutherford County residents through what he had found and what he believed it meant. He did not accuse anyone of crimes. He was careful about that. You decide, he said, and he meant it. He was an assessor, not a prosecutor. His job was to show people what the numbers said. And the numbers told a troubling story. The comptroller and the TNAO, Mitchell alleged, had been coercing assessors to classify single-family rental properties as commercial, a policy that drove property tax bills up by as much as 60%. The burden fell hardest on those least able to absorb it and least equipped to fight back. Cash-strapped families already struggling to keep a roof over their heads. Residential renters, particularly in fast-growing counties like Rutherford, had been quietly absorbing those increases for years, increases that Mitchell believed were traceable, at least in part, to the influence of an organization that had no legal right to exist, let alone to lobby. The months that followed were difficult ones. The noncompliance report hung over his office. The criticism from the mayor's office continued. There were quiet suggestions passed through intermediaries that Mitchell might want to let the matter rest and leave office along with it. He did not let it rest. He didn't back down. In the early weeks of 2026, the machinery of official inquiry finally ground to its conclusion. State investigators completed their noncompliance review, and the results said plainly what Mitchell had been claiming all along. Rutherford County was in compliance. It had been in compliance. In March 2026, Mitchell was vindicated. The question now is what comes next. Will the Attorney General and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation open a formal inquiry into an organization that operated without legal standing for decades, drawing on public funds with no verified corporate authority to do so? Will the executive director's dual role as both TNAAO leader and county lobbyist receive the scrutiny it warrants? Will a comprehensive audit of every public dollar paid to the TNAO finally be conducted and its findings made public? And will the non-compliance report filed against Mitchell's office, with its suspicious timing and pointed origins, be examined honestly for what it may have been? These are not rhetorical questions. They are the logical next steps if accountability means anything at all.